So there is a term called 6 degrees of separation. And it is the idea that all living things and everything else in the world are 6 or fewer steps away from each other. So that a chain of friend statements can be made to connect any two people in a maximum of 6 steps. So we have this common perception that there is separation between the conservatives and the liberals, between Trump and his administration and Soros, between Hillary and Trump, even though we know that Hillary and Bill attended Trump's last wedding, and that they were friends, and that Trump readily acknowledges that he had donated money to Hillary. But we have this idea too that these guys are in separate camps, and that these separate camps are at war with each other. Let's give you an example of this, which has to do with the whole idea of people crossing the southern border. So Trump is adamantly opposed to anybody crossing the border illegally. That's what he tells us. And we're going to allegedly build walls, although there's no indication that that's actually happening on any significant scale. As a matter of fact, the Congress has forbidden the movement of money from one source to the other for that purpose. So there is some repair and some other stuff being done, but they're not building 1,000 miles of border wall. Contrarily, George Soros is supposedly providing fund sources to help people from Guatemala, Venezuela, and elsewhere get across the Mexican border, run the full length of Mexico, and get into the United States, basically to run the system and break the border. And his open borders concept is not only relatively active or very active as it relates to North America, but also in Europe and especially in Hungary and some of the other places, Ukraine as well. So one of the things that I did in February when I was fumbling around working on some medical stuff of my own in California, and by the way, some of the people said that you must obviously have lost it when you started complaining about or comparing and disparaging Trump. And obviously the California weather or people or something like that got to you. There were people who said I must be a psyop myself, or that I was really a stealth candidate or a shill. They compared me to Alex Jones. They compared me to Corsi, who was one of the first people. I was one of the first people that outed him as fake when the whole Q thing began. So let me start by saying, in case you hadn't noticed, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not selling flashlights. I'm not selling minerals. I'm not selling sexual enhancement drugs. I'm not selling all kinds of drinks and beverages, etc. I don't have a store. I don't have anything for sale. I don't have any sponsors. I don't have any backing. I have not monetized this channel in any way. And in case you hadn't noticed, there are no Patreon or PayPal me or other donative ways of giving me money. And I don't ask for it. So let me add to that. I don't belong to any organization. None. Zero. Not local, not national, not regional, not professional, not personal, not public, not religious, not political, not fraternal. I don't belong to any organizations. Nobody has my membership on their docket anywhere, nor am I affiliated with anybody. And finally, neither the CIA nor the NSA or anybody else are giving me money. No political party, no personal investor, nobody has sent me a dime, okay? Not a dime. So if I am speaking foolishness, you will have to appreciate that it comes solely from me. And if I change my mind, you'll have to appreciate, I'm sorry to tell you, that I changed my mind, not somebody else bought my mind to change. So one of the things that I did in February was I looked at this magazine. And I'm going to leave, I'll put up a picture of this cover page of Forbes magazine. And I was fumbling around reading it and wondering what it was all about. Here is this young fella named Ryan Williams, who started a company called Cadre, and Forbes, which is run by Steve Forbes, little trust baby Steve Forbes, who ran for president a couple times, the guy with this stupid-looking grin on his face, who is the editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine and is a multi-generational owner as such. Steve Forbes, who happens to be one of the signatories of Project for a New American Century. In case you're wondering from where he comes, he is a flat tax guy and a bunch of other stuff. So it was interesting to see what his take on it was, that Ryan Williams, one of his people that has been designated by Forbes magazine as a 30 under 30, that is a multimillionaire under 30 years of age. And apparently this Ryan Williams, this young guy, I think from Alabama or Mississippi, has amassed a $100 million fortune, and he did it by starting a real estate investment company in New York that is working on commercial and residential properties and allows for investors in all kinds of ways. So when he started, the co-founders and initial investors were a pair of brothers named, you'll recognize this, Jared Kushner, and his little brother Josh Kushner. And the two of them, I think, put something like $50 million in up front. They leased the building to Cadre, where Williams operates his business, and Kushner has maintained, that is, Jared Kushner has maintained an investment in Cadre even after he moved to the White House, even after he moved in as an advisor to Trump. And his little brother also maintains an investment in it. And his little brother, and I'll try to put these guys up so that you can see their pictures and what Forbes said about them, but take it with a grain of salt, because you're talking about Stevie Trust Baby Forbes and his neocon predisposition against Trump and into the middle of this mess as well. So Josh Kushner is a friend of Ryan Williams and has stayed on the board, I think, and has invested a bunch of his money from Thrive Capital, which is his investment thing. And then there are other guys involved in this investment business. And so here they are, the Kushner brothers, with millions of dollars invested in Ryan Williams' Cadre, right? So who else happens to be invested in this as well? This is where it gets to the degrees of separation, okay? This is where you start to say, are we dealing with two camps or one? And what I would say to you is, pay attention, because we're dealing with one camp, and it ain't you. As the comedian, what's his name, said, you're not part of the club, right? We're not part of the club. So who are the investors in there? Well, there's Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban is he's the guy that would like to run against Trump. He was blustery, and the rest of that. He is the Dallas Mavericks owner and AXS TV chairman and CEO, and he has done a bunch of speaking out. And now he is publicly a never Trump supporter, and was as early as 6 months before the 2016 election. And he went so far as to say about Trump, it's rare that you see anyone get stupider during the campaign. That Trump has never invested wisely and tell me what good deal he did. Among other things, he was on Stephen Colbert and trashed Trump. But he also has talked about, not recently, but a year or so ago, has talked about running for president himself as an independent in 2020. And of course, Trump responds by saying that Mark Cuban is not smart enough to know what the Trump campaign is doing. So then you have another guy named Michael Fascitelli. And Michael Fascitelli is a supporter of Trump. He is a member of the Vornado Realty Trust. He is a co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. These guys, they're kind of all insiders, and they go into sports investments as well. And he was an original or one of the early investors in Cadre and was an angel investor. That is a private party that invested early on before they got more public investments. So Fascitelli joined Goldman Sachs in 1985. There we go. So there we have, and he became a partner of Goldman Sachs. He's not a small player in 1992, and then went out and started his own company and did the rest of this stuff. And he is a head of the investment committee of real estate technology for the startup Cadre. He is a trustee and director of Urban Land Institute. He's on the Rockefeller University Board of Trustees, and he was nominated by Governor Andrew Cuomo to serve as a 6-year term on the Board of Commissioners of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. So he's a Trump supporter. He's allegedly on Jared Kushner's side, although you have to recognize that Josh Kushner, the younger brother, is a liberal and is on the other side of it. And then you have Peter Andreas Thiel. And he is a German, was born in Germany. I think he's an American now. A Stanford University graduate. He's married to a guy named Matt Danzizen, I guess. He's a venture capitalist. He started a co-founder of PayPal. So PayPal, that is blocking some of the alt-right folks and has been a nemesis for a lot of people who have tried to set up independent operations and have been trying to speak out against the establishment, can go back to PayPal and to the rest of that. Now, what is more is that Thiel is a Facebook outside investor, and he acquired a 10% stake of it in August 2004. He sold a majority of his shares on Facebook for over $1 billion in 2012. So he did okay. He put in $500,000 in 2004 and took out $1 billion, which was only a little more than half of his investment in 2012. But he remains on the Facebook board of investors, right, a board of directors. And he is also funds a nonprofit research into artificial intelligence. So these guys are playing lots of them from the same pile of information. Now you've got another guy named Vinod Khosla, who is a native-born Indian, a multi-billionaire, an engineer, an investor. And he is more on the liberal side of it and was in, I think, Prop 87 of California and a bunch of other stuff. And finally, the guy I want you to pay attention to that's also an investor and put something like $250 million into Cadre as part of the investment fund and fund management and is a shareholder in Cadre is none other than George Soros. So here we have Jared Kushner and a couple of so-called conservative, Mark Cuban that's dissing trusts, Khosla that is a liberal and a libertarian guy, venture capitalist Peter Thiel, who is a supporter of Trump, but is also involved in several other projects. Liberal Josh Kushner and George Soros, all in the same pile. So I'm going to ask you then, how many degrees of separation are there between the Trump camp and the Soros camp? And I'm going to say to you that not only is that a pile, but when you get done with that, you can see a lot of these same players in an outfit called Breakthrough Energy, playing games with the same stuff, investing on both sides of this. You've got guys like Soros who got into coal a year or so before Trump became president, bought it for a dime on the dollar because a lot of them were going belly up. And who was a big promoter for coal? Well, Donald Trump. And that's also true with Tom Steyer, who'd like to run for president and is involved in the impeach Trump movement, who was also an investor in coal a year or so before Trump became elected. So I'm going to say to you that we think that there are two camps, and that these camps are at war, and that these camps are never commingled, and that they maintain a certain degree of separation, and that we can trust one or the other of them to forward the causes that they present to us. And I'm going to tell you the truth is, they're all in the same boat, and we ain't in it. And they are all helping each other. They're helping each other with investments, with tax reductions, with the rest of that. Ostensibly, they appear to be separate. Ostensibly, they appear to be choosing one side or the other. But when you look at it, they invest together, they party together, they promote each other together, they give each other tax breaks, they set up their foundations, they play little games, and they're working on all of this to our detriment, right? So when you're looking for the little guy that's going to look after you, look at who they engage with, look at who they invest with, look at who they play with, and ask yourself, which I did, if Jared Kushner was in cadre and Soros showed up with big money, wouldn't he have gotten out? Would his brother have gotten out? If Soros came to a company that he saw that he might want to invest in and saw the Kushners involved as well as other Trump promoters, would he have invested in it anyway? And no normal person on either side of it would have joined the other. No, none of us. But they all do. And so it tells us more about who they are than all the rest of the things that they tell us. We have to look at what they do, not what they say. And in this case, what they do is play the game with each other. And they play the game without us. So part of the reason that I have taken the step back from any support of the Trump administration is not only that I did not see any of his promises being kept, that is, getting us out of Iraq, Afghanistan, winding out of Syria, staying out of trouble there, not getting into projects like Venezuela, not rattling the swords against Iran, but to get rational about it, winding down our military efforts, and instead he's invested in more. What I would ask him to have done is cut back on the Israel involvement in the Middle East and thereby settle down the craziness there. What has he done? He provided $38 billion worth of investment for Israel. He has given them vastly more advanced weapons. He has supported them in invading Syria and others. He has actively engaged the terrorist Bibi Netanyahu in getting his, fifth term in office there. So all of those things are, and then of course we moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and now Trump is promoting the Golan Heights. Is that going to make the Middle East better? I'm going to say to you, no. I'm happy to have them all have a place, but I don't want us to be supporting one country over another. It's none of our business, in my opinion. So I see Trump not blocking the wall. I see him giving a wink and a nod perhaps to Soros, who's going to bring people in by the tens and hundreds of thousands. And if you happen to be a working person in the United States, you should know that having illegal immigrants here will cost you $2 or $3 or $4 an hour in your hourly wage. If you're an hourly wage earner, having illegal immigrants here is going to cost you $2 to $4 an hour and going to make other things more expensive. It is going to destroy our infrastructure. It is going to decimate our public services, our Medicare, our Medicaid, our low-income housing, etc., the WIC program and the rest, because they are going to draw from it heavily and we are going to hit the wall there. So I'm saying to you, in my reflection on all of this, I watch what they've done. I've tried to watch what they have done, not what they've told us. And what they have done, what the Trump administration has done, is not follow through on the promises they provided, and they are commingling with their degree of separation is like this with the people that I know are here to hurt us. Thank you so much for watching.